Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling Review Series for the 6th of August, 1983. I wish Mid-Atlantic was still around in 2021, although it would take a lot because there aren't that many quality wrestlers that could fill out a territory like Mid-Atlantic at that time. Anyway, Orton versus Jury Gray, or Golden Boy Gray as he's known here, is joined in progress. Orton gets a quick suplex and kind of the hanging variety. Jerry Gray, as mentioned in previous weeks, a guy who has a lot going for him in terms of tenacity with all the illnesses he's had over the last several years. Jerry Gray continues to be a super individual that way, just in terms of tenacity. Anyway, we see, um, you know, uh, Bob Orton Jr. kind of getting the suplex and then the kind of a military press keeps going pretty aggressively there. Orton Jr. also cinches up on a uh, kind of side headlock, hammerlock, and even rolls him through. Beautiful matches. Also, we see two matches with Ric Flair and Harley Race. Joined in progress. Not necessarily a fan of the joining in progress thing. As I've mentioned before, uh, the to me the concept of showing matches in progress in VTRs is lazy. It inspires fans not to watch your programming weekly, and then I understand most people don't, but I still disagree with that concept anyway. Back suplex by Flair starts us off, and then we see Flair going and kind of doing the toss off the top on Race. Race at the time, of course, in his last series in the as world champion, of course, losing the title for the final time in November of '83 at Starrcade to Flair himself. Flair then drops an elbow, and the crowd is solidly behind Flair. Flair goes for the figure four and can't quite keep Race down through that. Race rolls through it. By the way, this is worth watching. If you've never seen these matches before, the intensity from both Flair and Race is amazing. Flair finally does lock on the figure four, but we see interference from others, including but not limited to individuals trying to grab the bounty that has been promised, and certainly, the nature of that. Race is about to surrender and actually does. Flair gets that surrender in a non-titled environment. Then we see Ric Flair basically saying that he's going to be the world champion again, and everybody knows it. We go to another highlighted process, this time from a more arena-based setting, and Flair is certainly at his best. We join in progress with Flair having the sleeper hold on Race. Race not really wanting to back down, but still being a little bit, I don't know that intimidated is the right word by Flair, but certainly he's there, and Flair tries to roll him up, roll him through. They get tangled up in the ropes a little bit. Flair goes to the top rope and hits a offensive maneuver on Race. Catches him with the elbow to the top of the head, a la Dusty Rhodes, only from the top rope. I don't think Dusty would ever do that. Race gets the foot on the bottom rope, and a suplex by Flair is then accentuated. Flair and Race kind of go at it pretty aggressively for the next several minutes. The run-in, though, by Bob Orton, Dick Slater, and others to try and gain the bounty and injure the neck and back of Ric Flair is the predominant thing here. Flair having to run that off, and Flair is obviously annoyed and frustrated and angry at the betrayals, as it were. Flair continues his promos and talks about the promise that he is going to be the world champion. No one's going to stop him, and ultimately, no one has the ability nor the tenacity to stop him. Then we go to kind of a build for, I guess, the early build for Starrcade. I mean, we're only, August, September, October, November. So we're the beginning of August here. So 3.5 months away, something like that. Roddy Piper back facing Masafuchi, and Piper actually takes some go-behinds, ride time, hammerlocks, and the like. For Piper, that's, a more traditional style of wrestling than we normally see. Steps over with the armbar roll through, and Piper then stays on his man, also hooks in a sleeper, and Piper between punches and all of that. Fucci looks pretty weak here, but again, he's not staying long term, and Piper is a mainstay in the area. We then see the great Kabuki coming out. Kabuki has been a major force in the last several months, but we do not see Kabuki having much trouble with Rick McCord. They keep bringing back the television title, but Kabuki never really defends it, at least not on television anyway, which kind of defeats the purpose of the championship, at least from my estimation. There is a back elbow and other such from McCord. McCord gets a few extra shots in, but Rick McCord, of course, known as Austin Idol later, manages to prefer the Tennessee general area and doesn't really go very far here. We kind of see some claws, literally the abdominal claw by Kabuki, and kind of keeping him managed. McCord does come back up in the short term, doesn't stay up very long though, and we see Kabuki take him back down with the abdominal claw again. Doesn't last very long. The assassins come out and they promise that they know more about wrestling than most people have forgotten. They are in black and gold masks and black bodysuits. The assassin, of course, Jody Hamilton. I don't know who the second assassin is. Probably Tom Ernesto. But we go to a match with the assassins against John Bartello and Bret Hart. Bret Hart, yes, that Bret Hart, who in 1983 is really has not found his way all that well. Hart and one of the assassins do have a pretty spirited exchange, but the assassins are major forces here. Of course, they'd been forces in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, so the early 80s are a good enough time as any. Of course, the assassin by the early 90s has gone on to power plant fame and kind of being one of the main heads and coaches in the power plant alongside Buddy Lee Parker. But in any event, punch kick Bret Hart around about and gets a couple of things. Monkey flip out of the corner. Hart stays in for the majority of the match for his enhancement team, and that's what Hart is here, an enhancement worker. Rare to see because he's a main guy in Calgary, and then of course remains pretty pushed from going to the WWF in late '84 through his entire career, at least figured into something somewhere. John Bonello tries to get the tag, does not get everything he wants on that tag, but manages to do pretty okay. A modified abdominal stretch / neck crimping, and the Assassins also cut Bret Hart off from his partner. The Assassins are a good enough team, but don't really have a major feud here in 1983 that I can guess upon. Piper says that he no longer wants to give Valentine the exposure to the ear. Talks about how he now is aligned with Rick Steamboat, Flair, and Piper, your three main babyfaces in Mid-Atlantic in 1983, who are all kind of aligned against Race and Orton and Slater. And it's just interesting because such a smaller roster, but everybody has a place, and everybody is a major force. Piper also basically says he's going to hang Valentine with a strap, but encourages kids not to do the same. So trying to keep it PG while still having a bit of an element of surprise and extra anger. But anyway, we'll close there. We'll be back with more right after this.